Hello everyone, welcome to this session. Our topic is coordination, and today let's discuss about the neurons. In our previous video, we saw the concept of this coordination. So today let's discuss about these neurons. These neurons are just the nerve cells. They are the ones that they carry information as the tiny electric signals. Now, a neutron, it consists of a cell body with a nucleus in the cytoplasm, while also the dendrites that carry the electric impulses to the cell, and a long axon that carries the impulses away from the cell. So that's how these new neurons are made up. Now, the axon of one neuron and the dendrites of the next neuron do not actually touch each other. The gap between this kind of neurons is what we call the synapse. So the neurons, they are not in contact to each other, but they are separated together from each other by the synapse. Now, let's see the structure and the functions of the neurons. The diagram below, which we're going to see in our next slide, it shows a typical neuron. In this case, we'll be discussing the structure of the motor neuron. This motor neuron is just a type of a neuron. Now, it has the structure of it is that it has the tiny branches at each end, whereby they are known as the dendrites, and a long fiber, that is the axon that carries the signals or the nervous impulses. The axon is the one that is surrounded by the fatty layer known as the myelin sheath, and it helps to protect the neuron and allow the impulses to travel faster. The sheath is produces the Schwann cells. The methylene sheath has nodes, these nodes of Raneva that speed up the transmission of the nervous impulses. A cell body is the one that consists of the cytoplasm enclosing the nucleus. So all these are just uh, parts of the neuron. Now, there are also other organelles in the cytoplasm, such as the mitochondria that supply the energy for the metabolic functions. Now, here is the structure of a neuron. As we said before, it consists of these parts. There's a nucleus here. Also, the nucleus is surrounded by the cytoplasm. There are dendrites which are found at the ends of this cytoplasm, and there is axon. Axon is it's like a stem that is there that carries the information from the dendrites towards the nerve endings, and there's methylene sheath. These are the ones that covers the axon, whereby also there's the cell body that is there as the structure before the dendrites, and there's a node of Raniva. This node of Raniva is the one that gives these like branches or just gaps along the methylene sheath. So I will be clear in this structure of the neuron. Moving on, let's discuss about the synapse. Now, when two neurons meet, the tiny gap that we said before that is called as the synapse. The signals cross this gap using chemicals known as the neurotransmitters released by the neuron. Now, when the chemical diffuses across the gap, it makes the next neuron transmit an electrical signal. Now, the transmission of the nervous impulses across the synapses occurs thus, and first is that the electrical impulses, they travel along an axon. Second one, that this triggers the nerve ending of a neuron to release the chemical messages, or chemical messengers are called the neurotransmitters. Also, these chemicals, they diffuse across the synapse, the gap, and bind with the receptor molecules on the membrane of the next neuron. And last but not least, the receptor molecules are on the second neuron. They bind only to the specific chemicals released from the first neuron. This way stimulates the second neuron to transmit the electrical impulses. So this is what happens across the synapses. Now let's see types of the neurons. Now, there are three main types of the neurons, namely the first one, the motor neuron, which we are the one which we were discussing about before, as the one described the structure of the neuron. The second one is the sensory neuron, and the third one is the relay or the intermediate neuron. Now, each of these neurons, they have different structure and performs different functions, and we are going to discuss each one of them, starting with the first one, that is the motor neuron. The motor neuron, this is a nerve cell that transmits the impulses from the central nervous system to the effector organs, such as the muscles or glands where the response is made. A cell body of a motor neuron is at one end of the neuron and lies entirely within the central nervous system, as we can see in the diagram above, which we've discussed before when we were discussing the structure of the neuron, as you can see here. So this is how the motor neuron looks like, as we've seen how it carries the information. So that's all about the motor neuron. That nerve that transmits the impulses from the nervous system, from the central nervous system, to the effector organs. We discussed all of these terms, the effector, the impulse, the stimuli, in our previous video when discussing about the concept of the coordination. Moving on, let's see the sensor neuron. The sensor neuron, this is the nerve cell that transmits the impulses from the receptors to the central nervous system. So the sensor neurons, they are just like the opposite of the motor neurons. The sensor neurons have their cell bodies of the axon and outside the central nervous system. So that's the sensor neuron is just like it acts accordingly or controversial to the motor neuron. The sensor are the ones that gives the information to the central nervous system. Now the central nervous system, after processing the information received, they give the response. Now that response is carried out by the motor neurons. Now let's see the last type of the neuron, that is the relay or the intermediate or interneuron. A relay neuron, it conveys the message between the neurons in the central nervous system. So the relay neurons are just the ones that are located in the central nervous system between the sensor and the motor neurons. So the relay are just like the intermediate neurons. They are the ones that they convey the messages between the neurons within the central nervous system. And here is the diagram of all these types of the neurons. As you can see here, there's the motor neuron, the sensor neuron, the multipolar interneuron, that is the relay neuron, how they are structured and how they are made. So as in terms of the relay neurons, this is how they are made up with their structure. They consist of the cell body, the axon, and also the axon terminals. In terms of the motor neuron, as we discussed before, consists of the dendrites, the cell body, and the nucleus at the center, while also the axon and the node of nerve, and also the methylene sheath, and also there's a neuron muscle synapses, and as you can see, they relay the information to the muscles, and also there's the axon terminals that are found also within these kinds of neurons. In terms of the sensor neuron, as you can see, there's the one that connected to the receptor cell, there's peripheral branch, also the axon that is also found in the sensor neuron, while the cell body also is there, and the nucleus also, and also the central branch, whereby it hits the information toward the central nervous system. I hope it's clear, all these three types of the neurons. Moving on, that's all I have for this video. Thank you for listening. We've discussed the concept of the neurons. We've seen the various types of the neurons, their structure and their functions, all of them. Thank you, and see you in the next video.